We are live on social media. Hey, hello everyone. Welcome for another episode of the Puppet Podcast. I'm Caroline. I'm doing this show because I love puppetry and I want more people enjoy this art form. So I gather with fellow puppeteers from all over the world online in real time live, and we chat about this art form and how we enjoy it when the crush happens. So that's the Puppet Podcast, and we have such amazing stuff we're coming. Like we will do a gala, an online gala with all the guests and the community. So that's our challenge. You will see the promotion come really soon. But this weekend we have a workshop, and I want to take just a second to drop that in the screen. It's a wonderful workshop with the wonderful Edwin Salas. We will talk about OBS. What is this OBS? This is a platform to do online streaming, online show, and it's kind of really useful to learn that how we can put the show that we maybe have done in our basement or in we create. Hey, it's a funny time. So you can take those shows and put it online and feel like what it is, where it's going. So I'm really questioning this, and I want to give to the community the tools to doing that. So Edwin accept the challenge to do this wonderful workshop. So it's next Sunday. It's in the afternoon. So Sunday afternoon at 2 East time. So if you're in Pacific, it's a bit early. If you're European, it will be maybe more late at the night. So yeah, join us if you want. Just have a look on the Patreon page right there. Boom! Puppet Podcast. So it's really simple to see and watch. So you have like many other workshops that we have done in the past. So you have access to all the stuff if you come to join us this weekend. So yeah, this was the promotion part of the introduction. So join everyone and write into the chat if you have any comment, if you want to say to us from where you are watching. If you have any question for my wonderful guests, I'm so happy because we challenged this interview for months. We just postponed it. Oh, I'm busy time. Everyone is kind of busy at this time. So I will bring in the screen the wonderful Dave Chapman. I'm really happy to connect with UK puppeteers. So please, ladies and gentlemen, drum roll, like a live thing with a big crowd with applause. Mr. Dave Chapman!
Yay! I like your drum roll. That was a great intro. Thank you very much, Caroline.
Yeah, I must introduce more of your work because you have done so much. Thank you first for joining me in this show.
No problem. I'm glad we made it happen. You said everyone was busy, but I mean, not everyone is busy because it's lockdown here. But there is still film production going on, and in a COVID-friendly, the socially distanced, safe way we've been carrying on, which is I'm not quite sure what's going to happen next, but we have been busy, and you and I have tried to make this happen for months, and eventually it's really happening right now, live.
Live from the ocean. We crossed the ocean and we are live together.
Yes.
And yeah, I always ask the guests to introduce themselves. It's hard to do it sometimes.
That's okay.
But could you maybe introduce yourself, your work, to the people who are watching right now?
Yes, absolutely. Hello, people who are watching. My name is Dave Chapman, and I started puppeteering when I was a kid. We're going to obviously cover that in a minute, but I professionally puppeteered from the age of 20. I trained at the Jim Henson Company in London, and since then I have been performing, creating and writing many times, other times performing other people's characters, monsters, creatures, robots, puppets, aliens, for 25 years. So I'm very, very lucky, very blessed that I've managed to spend pretty much all my working life in puppets of all kinds of varieties across all kinds of genre, mostly film and television. But I'm a huge fan of all forms of puppetry, from tabletop stuff, Punch and Judy, knockabout stuff, slapstick stuff, adult stuff, kids stuff. I love it all. So as probably most of the people watching right now do, I would imagine.
Yeah, and it's great because for me, you work on many legendary puppetry television stuff. So it's amazing how, like, I want to ask you just naturally from there, how is it to work on those kind of like the Dark Crystal, those kind of like deep project? You must feel really, really grateful for this.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean, funnily enough, we all feel the same, especially the Dark Crystal team, which is Dark Crystal was a team of 10 core puppeteers. Victor Yered and Alice Deneen from Los Angeles, and then 8 British puppeteers. I've got to name them all: Ollie Taylor, Neil Sternberg, Kat Smee, Helena Smee, Warwick Brownlow Pike, Kevin Clash, Victor. God, who am I forgetting? Oh my God, amazing Becky Henderson, amazing Kat Smee. We've done them. I think that's everybody. Yeah, did I do everybody? Oh my God, I'm in such trouble if I did. Anyway, all these people were the same. We all love the Dark Crystal, and we were all huge fans of the original movie because we're all puppet geeks. I mean, most puppeteers are puppet geeks that I work with. There's not one who's like, oh yeah, I just do this on weekend. You know, I'm not really interested in this. Everyone's pretty mad for it. So we were all huge fans of the original movie, and we were all incredibly conscious of stepping into these giant shoes that Jerry Nelson and Dave Goles, Jim Henson, Frank Oz, Steve Whitmire, these guys, they kind of wrote the rule book on how you do this stuff. They invented that. I mean, like the Dark Crystal didn't exist. You know, the Muppet Show informed development of the puppeteering department of Jim Henson Company and the Creature Shop, and you know, they were forging new ground. So we were really conscious that we had to get it right and not make it like a kind of a cheapo knockoff. I mean, obviously the show was a big show with a lot of money involved. It's a big budget show, but within that you can still make, you know, it can still be average puppeteering, or you can still get away with stuff. But we were not planning on getting away with anything because it was important to us to fill those shoes and keep the bar high. And luckily, I mean, it won the Emmy, and luckily people got it, you know, because we didn't know. Like, we'd watch it and go, we like it, but we're puppet geeks, so maybe, you know, like, what about the rest of the world? And really, you know, it's we're all very proud of it. It was, I mean, you said, what are these big projects like? They are all consuming. So the Dark Crystal was 1 year of my life from beginning to end, and pre-production is lots of forward planning. So I was actually explaining, I was assistant puppet captain on that, and Warwick Brownlow Pike was the other assistant puppet captain. And so you have to, logistically, you have to figure out how a lot of this stuff is going to be done. So it's not like you walk in and go, I've got a puppet, here I go. You have to read the script months in advance and go, wow, they're having a sword fight on top of a moving carriage. Like, how are we going to do that? So you have a lot of, you know, I mean, planning's everything, right? Planning's everything from all of the stuff that any puppeteers would do. Is if you do your homework, you're going to be okay. It'll be all right on the night, you know?
Yeah, and it's the result is so incredible. Like, I watched that. I was touring North America, and I was on my tablet watching like all night.
Were you touring with a puppet show, or were you touring?
I was touring with Cirque du Soleil, and I was doing a puppet in this, and I was so geek. And as the only puppeteer of the cast, I was like telling people, you must watch this. It's on Netflix. And I was feeling like maybe lonely in this trip, but it's not like, I feel it's a geek thing, but most of the muggle understand it also.
Yeah, they do. And it is that sort of, I always have this thing of, with Netflix it's different because, you know, you can have this feeling that we made this thing, it exists online, that's it, like, they're not going to make any more, it's extremely expensive to make. And I always have this thing of, like, some kid this weekend will just choose Dark Crystal on Netflix and be like, I wonder what that is. And then they're just going to dive into this immense world with all this stuff going on. And their brains are going to be like, wow, what? You know, this is so exciting that it just sits on the Netflix, you know, banner. In the old days, of course, if you missed it on TV and you didn't have a VCR or somebody couldn't lend it to you, then you missed it. But nowadays, it's like, it's lovely to know that somebody somewhere can pick that show up and start that journey through Thra, which is obviously the kingdom it's set in. I'm just looking because I think I have a picture here. Sorry, I'll be back in a second.
Yeah.
I think I have a picture that I wanted to show you of the Dark Crystal, but I don't know where it's gone. Hold on a minute. I think
But
that's
it's
powerful.
so great that you bring that to us like this with a lot of like authenticity. We can understand the
Yeah.
process, we can understand how it was, and it was tough work, but it
Yeah.
was amazing.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's the thing. There's a sequence on the making of documentary where I am literally falling asleep. No, I'm not falling asleep. It looks like I am, but I'm holding a puppet and I'm closing my eyes because I'm just getting a minute just to kind of gather my thoughts. This is the picture I was trying to show you. That's how many people it takes to make a dark crystal.
Oh,
So
oh my
that's a
god.
lot of people. So that's just the crew who are in every single day. And
Oh,
that's a lot of people. I mean, they are immense because everything is bespoke. So you can't go to the store and buy a fancy goblet for a girlfriend to drink out of, or you can't buy a chair for a Skeksis. You know, every single thing in that show is designed and crafted by craftspeople, and so literally everything you see on screen is an original, bespoke for that program, which is quite rare that you do a show where everything is bespoke. You know, usually you can rent a few chairs or a car or something.
it's amazing. It's so
Yeah.
amazing. And I want to ask you this funny question about the why. Like you talking about geeks, but I want to know your why. Like what makes the art of puppetry an art that you cherish?
Wow, I was 5 in 1977, so that's kind of peak. The Muppet Show's really beginning to take off then. The Muppet Show started in '76, but by '77, Muppet was big news, as was Star Wars, which came out in '77 in the UK. So
Yeah.
I suppose I loved puppets when I was little. So prior to being 5, I thought puppets were cool on TV, and I liked kids' puppet shows in the real world, and I thought it was fun that there was these things that could say what they want and be crazy and do wild things that human beings couldn't do. And then I saw Muppet Show, just blew my mind. I was like, this is insane. Like this is the craziest thing ever. That guy blows things up. The pig is punching the frog. The bear's terrible, a comedian, he's awful. There's an animal that plays drums and smashes things up. And there's a chef that throws things. It's just like everything was nuts, you know. So my sense of humor, that really appealed to my sense of humor. I just thought this is great. You know, what this is such a crazy world. So Muppet Show was my entry level thing where I became obsessive and I started drawing the Muppets, and I was making scratchy foam puppets as a little kid. They weren't great, but they were, you know, a start in that world. And so I suppose from that point on, I was then crazy about puppets. So it's really a Jim Henson Company thing, although I did like puppets before that. I just thought the way that Jim Henson, I should say, and Frank pushed things just so far, so quickly,
Yeah.
you know, that because of the using the TV screen as the playboard. Like prior to that, you know, TV shows had puppet shows on where they had a playboard, so the camera would look at a booth, and you'd be thinking,
Uh-huh.
why are they doing that? Like, but Jim Henson went, okay, let's just push the camera in and make the bottom of the screen. I can't do it. It's difficult on this because
Yeah.
like make that the bottom of the playboard.
Yeah.
And the characters are just here and here. And I just thought it was amazing. I felt like I reached into my TV. I love the colors. I love the sets. I love the anarchy. I love the writing. And that's what blew my mind. And then when I found out they were in London, you can imagine, I was completely freaked out because as far as I was concerned, the Muppet Show Theatre was in Los Angeles or New York. Why would it be in London? You know, like there's no point. They're all American. So when I found out they were in London, that was I just completely blew. I thought I was about 10 years old when I found that out, and I couldn't believe it. I thought they're here. They're here. They're making the show here, and then I wrote to Jim Henson, and I said I want to work with your company. I was 11. I'd like to be a Muppet performer. I mean, I was 11, so I'd have been very, very short. All the Muppets would be up here. I'd have been down here. But I said I want to be a Muppet performer. He wrote back and said, "You're too young to work in our company right now, but we will keep your details on file. And should we ever train any Muppet performers, which we do very occasionally before big movies, we'll give you a call." So I was 11. So I went, oh, well, I'm 11, and that's not an answer I wanted. So, hey, Jim Henson, thanks for writing. No, I was really excited. He sent a signed photograph of himself, which I still have. And I was excited because I thought, well, he's a real guy. He is in London. They are making the show here. All of this is true. But he can't train me because I'm 11. But he did say he'd keep my details on file. So that's kind of nice. But I'm 11,
Yeah.
so I don't really understand what that means. So then, fast forward to graduating school, going through drama school. I studied stage management and production management at drama school in London at Lambda. I graduated drama school. I worked in the West End as a stage manager. By this point, I'm 19. So it's 8 years later. But from 11 to 19, when you're a kid, is like, half your life. So it's an immense
an
amount of time.
eternity.
Yeah, an eternity. So I was working in the West End, and I had a phone call on my answer phone before the days of mobile phones in the 1800s. So I had this answer phone message from my mum when I got home saying, hey, Jim Henson Company called, and they said they were auditioning people to be Muppet performers, or to be, background Muppet performers in the UK. And I couldn't believe it. So I went along to the audition like 2 weeks later, got the gig, got on the workshop with Kath Smee, who's also in The Dark Crystal. I just remembered a puppeteer I forgot from Dark Crystal, Damien Farrell. I'm just going to name check Damien Farrell, amazing puppeteer, Irish. So myself and Kat and Colin Purvis, another puppeteer who I work with all the time in Star Wars and stuff. There's us three, and there's 5 others, and we trained at the Jim Henson Company as background Muppet performers for Muppet Treasure Island, which was the project that I first started on. And, I wrote this letter when I was 11, and then fast forward to being 19 years old and being at the Jim Henson Company training as, a puppeteer. It was crazy.
It's amazing. And do you have like the crush moment in memory? Maybe a moment where you just say, this is what I will do for life.
I think that is that. I mean, it's difficult in a sort of in like just that kind of nanosecond where it just went blam. Yeah. It's just that summer. I think that summer of back end of 77 into 78 when it was Star Wars and Muppet Show. That was it. So it's kind of a elongated period, I suppose. First screening the Muppet Show, maybe kind of seeing Yoda and stuff in the 1980s. I was a bit freaked out because Yoda predates the Dark Crystal. So the first creature that carried a performance in a movie that wasn't, a real human being inside was Yoda, which is obviously Frank Oz's amazing work. So I think when I saw Yoda, I thought, oh, you can do puppets that are serious as well. I'd seen some puppet theater that was serious, but I hadn't seen convincing kind of movie stuff that was real. So I suppose, God, I think it's just it was a 6-month crush that went, Muppets are amazing, Star Wars is amazing, there's monsters and creatures and robots and things, and there's no rules and you can do what you like. And that's what I fell in love with, I think, was the fact that, if you wanted to stretch Beaker's legs so they were 6 foot long, then you can. If you want to fire a penguin into a wall, you can. If you want to, Piggy rides a motorbike in one of the movies. I mean, it's just that sort of crazy anarchy where you forget that you're watching, puppets because you go, oh, there's a pig on a motorcycle. It makes sense. But coming to it as a little kid, it was just like, these guys are nuts. Like, it was this whole thing of, I liked comedy and I liked, there's a very weird Anglo-American sense of humor to the Muppet Show because some of the writers were American, some of the writers were British. Yeah. So I guess it just was that I can't really pin it down to a very specific moment, but I'd definitely say just those 2 projects, the movie Star Wars and the Muppet Show.
Yeah, Yoda is key also. I love the fact that you say Yoda make a spark, like I can, in terms of seriousness, and it's great. And I want to ask you also about the field of study, because every puppeteer come from a different background. But I want to ask you, like, in your opinion, what would be the best field of study to become a puppeteer?
Wow, that's such a great question. I'm a massive advocate in making contact with people who you think are good. So, I mean, my story that I've told in rather a long way, but I mean, essentially, as an 11-year-old, I wrote a letter, and that's what it boils down to one person. And I guess what I suppose it's that thing of getting involved. It sounds crazy because it sounds so easy to just go, oh, get involved, it's fine. But I think like your stuff, podcast is really interesting and engaging, and it has a lot of good advice. And it's that thing of don't dream it, be it, or just get up and do it. It's weird because, again, people go, well, it's easy for you. You'd have a career. And you go, yeah, but I did when I was a little kid make puppets, and I did put little shows on in my school. And I think it's that thing of going, get involved. If you have an idea or a dream, get going, and even if you think, oh, I want to be a funny, elephant puppet character, then just make one and see how it goes. It doesn't matter if it's rubbish, because in 3 weeks' time you can rebuild it. In 6 months' time you can rebuild it. You can change it. You can move the voice. You can make it a different color. You can do whatever. So I suppose my thing is getting in touch with people who are doing it and seeing if they have any, and watching this kind of stuff. Obviously, there's not a wealth of your kind of stuff online, actually. So you guys are doing something which I feel is quite important. It's a great place to check in and say, what can I learn this week, or what can I learn this time? And I
Yeah.
think it's just that getting involved and also absorbing. I mean, again, it sounds a bit like I'm stating the obvious, but absorbing everything, watch everything you can. There's so many YouTube clips of puppets. Equally, there's a nice archive of motion picture puppets and TV puppets, and also people doing make and do. There's quite a few people who show you online, how to build stuff. And I mean, I know you guys do some of that stuff too. I just think it's that thing of immersion. It's almost an obsession. I think I was obsessed. I think I probably still am, but I think as a kid I was definitely obsessed. Like I couldn't consider doing anything else. There was nothing else. Somebody would say, I think the career guy said, "Oh, I don't think that's going to work out for puppet. I mean, who does that?" And I said, "Well, I want to do it." And he said, "Well, do you like the outdoors?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "I think you should work for the Forestry Commission." So like looking after the woodland. I was like, well, how do we get from that to that? So I suppose it's that, and I was obsessed. So I was just busy. I just went, oh, whatever. And then went and just carried on, watching, learning, researching. Because back in the day, there was no internet. So I had to go to the library and order books. God, order books. Say to the librarian, can I get this book on puppets? I found this book. Oh, this is so-and-so by so-and-so. And they say, oh, it's to be here in 6 weeks. 6 weeks. God, so I'd wait 6 weeks and I get my puppet book and I'd be, oh, okay. And then you have to give it back 2 weeks later because it's a library. And then you have to say goodbye, bye, book, thanks. Or you photocopy it. But it's that thing. I mean, again, I feel like I'm preaching to the converted, but it's that thing of, if you want to do it, just do it. Don't get too hung up about it. A lot of people get worried, like, what if it's not good? What if the thing is not great? You go, just do it, because once you do it, that journey, that forward motion begins. And so once the journey begins, and people often say, well, I don't think I have the right thing right now, or I don't have the right fabric, or I don't have the right sponge, or I don't know how to do it. Just do it, scratch do it, and then you'll soon look at it and go, oh, I need to make that different. And just progress through that journey, because I think I've got this thing on my in my house that's like a saying. It's not like a naff poster. It's a big lump of metal, and hammered into the metal with typography, typewriter letters, it says, what would you do today if you knew you could not fail? And that's the thing. If you decide, okay, I'm not gonna, even if you do fail, it's that thing of like, what would you do? And people always go, oh, I want to do this, or I want to do that. And you go, well, just do it. Because the only thing that stops people doing it is the fear of failure. And failure's fine. Failure's absolutely fine. It's just a part, as you know, it's a part of the journey. And we have to screw up to get things right. But it's hard with young people, sometimes with young guns, they don't want to goof up. And you go, don't worry, it's fine. It's fine. People will see it and they won't think it's very good. It doesn't matter, because it'll be better next time. So I think this, immerse yourself, become crazy obsessed. We're all a little crazy obsessed.
But we need those kind of advice and talk. Like you're giving us like the passion of it and the encouragement, and that's what this show is about. Also,
yeah. That's good. Yeah, I sense that when I've seen stuff of yours in the past. I sense that, and I think it's so important to make people just say to people, just go do it. Go do it. It's fine. No one's gonna, it's gonna be fine.
Yeah, but we need those advice, and we have questions from the audience. Let me bring. Oh, yeah. Okay, I just bring it in the screen.
Ask him to see the animation cells that are on the wall behind him. Hey, Bob Rumber, they're not animation cells. They are. That's a Rogue One poster. Where I can't do this because it's the wrong scan. That is a Rogue One poster there. I should just point to it in real world. And that is a Last Jedi poster. That is not an animation cell. Although weirdly, Bob Rumber, I have got animation cells in this room that you can't see. But maybe you sense them because you have a sixth sense. And to answer your question, they're Peanuts animation cells, because I'm a big fan of Peanuts. Bob Rumber, the guy who sees stuff that's not even in the room. Amazing.
That's funny. That's the crowd. I love to bring question here. And if you have people question, just feel free to put it below the interview in the chat. I will bring it in the screen. I want to ask you also, Dave, this big question about the definition. I always like to have the definition of the puppeteer, how you define a puppet in your own words.
Whoa, God. I've heard that you've asked this question before. I think a puppet is it's like, I mean, Frank Oz often refers to puppets as props, and there's a sort of a dissociation there, which is, he's half jokingly being disrespectful, and he's half saying it's not a real thing. a vessel that you can push a performance through. So obviously you have to have a human being there. And I guess some human beings, that's a weird thing actually, lots of human beings get into puppets because they want to do a performance, but they don't feel confident with their face on camera or their face in the theater. So they kind of go, maybe I could perform in a different way. And if it's not me, then, puppets. And that quite a few people I've worked with have had that experience where they're very funny and they're very confident and they're good at voices. But they don't feel like they'd ever want to be an actor, and they've made that sidestep naturally. But I think a definition of a puppet is for me, a beautifully designed thing. I think it's got to be beautiful. I mean, unless it's deliberately an ugly thing, but even then it's a beautiful, ugly thing. And it is a cleverly designed thing that has beautiful movement, essential that it moves beautifully and does everything that the puppeteer needs it to do. But yeah, it's kind of a vessel for performance, and a different puppet in different people's hands. It's amazing how you can have 5 people in a circle. I'm sure you know this, and you can give them a puppet that's quite characterless, quite a flat, like not particularly crazy or wacky design, and each of those 5 people will interpret and perform that puppet in a completely different way, and it will become a completely different thing with completely different movement, attitude, disposition, voice. And that's when I'm stoked, because I think that's amazing that this one thing can be 5 different things with 5 different people's approaches, just like that, not with any kind of prior rehearsal or thought, because every puppeteer has a different disposition, a way of using and manipulating this object to garner an emotional reaction or a laugh or empathy or sympathy or whatever. So I guess that's what I think. It's a vessel, and the only reason I say that is because of that fact of you could have a puppeteer who'll pick it up and be crazy and big and loud and wacky and funny. And then the same puppet is handed to a different puppeteer who'll give it this very quiet, muted, very caring, thoughtful performance that's equally brilliant, but in a different way. So I think as long as they move well and they're designed beautifully, not much to ask, then any puppeteer can pick it up and run with it and create something and give you something interesting and unique to them,
Yes, and it's such a good wording to think in terms of vessel. Like it's really interesting. I love it.
Yeah.
I want also to ask you I love talking in terms of future. Like, what is your big purpose? You see, maybe you have envisioned for the future in your career, or like with puppetry.
Oh gosh, that's so. Again, I've heard you ask this question before. I think it's difficult because I've had so many lucky breaks and I've had so much fun along the way so far. I feel like next I want to take something really small, because I've been on very large scale things for 10 years, and I'm quite interested in doing a little like a little YouTube project with a little tabletop puppets, small, just something kind of. I don't want to say too much because I've given it all away, but I would like to do that as a personal project. But as far as professionally, I mean, I'm so blessed and lucky that I've had a lot of the things I wanted to do. I have got to do. So, working in Star Wars, working in Muppets, and various other things. So I don't really know that I have an ambition left. I think probably just to keep on working and keep on having fun and enjoying what we do,
Yeah.
Which is, I'm very blessed. I mean, I'm super blessed to be in a job that I enjoy. I mean, that's every day is like, you think, I'm really lucky. I never take it for granted that I do something that I love, ever. Because it's something that you speak to other people and they go, oh God, I wish I could do something. And you get to know that not everyone has that luxury,
Yeah, the fact that like you do your job with a lot of love and passion, it's kind of something that everyone want but don't have. That's
yeah. So just to carry on, I suppose, doing what I'm doing and always learning as well. Like again, something we all say a lot in our UK puppeteering community and with the Americans as well when we're working with them, is just to keep learning, because you do weirdly. I mean, many things you do, but in puppeteering, there's always new stuff to learn, and there's new tech as well. We embrace technology quite a lot, and there's a lot of bits and pieces that come up that you think, oh yeah, that's going to be useful. Nothing that revolutionizes it, because ultimately it's about a guy or a girl beneath a puppet or next to a puppet if they're doing if they're in vision, creating a performance. So we like technology, but equally I love human beings because they're very quick to react, to reprogram stuff, and that's complicated.
But that's philosophy of puppetry. I love it. The fact that it's human and mechanic and technology work together.
Yeah.
We have questions from the crowd,
Okay.
It's someone you maybe know. It's really
Laura
cool.
Bacon. I do know Laura Bacon.
Yeah. So what is your favorite character?
Hi, Laura. Laura's a British puppeteer who works on Dark Crystal, amongst many other things, and she has a brilliant character called Patsy May. Favorite character? That's really hard, Laura. Why have you asked me this, Laura? I don't know. Perhaps. Oh gosh, I like comedy a lot. So there's a character I used to do on a live Saturday morning kids TV show in the UK, and it didn't even have a name. It was just called Cat. So it's this really mangy cat. And it used to come through the cat flap, not the letterbox, through the cat flap, and it would just moan and be annoying and irritating, and funny, annoying. But I like doing him because it was just this weird opportunity just to moan and be like a grouchy old misery guts. So I think he's quite fondly in my memory as something that made me laugh, and it was fun to do. It was all improv, so like I'm a big fan of improv, where you can just say what you like and do what you like. But I do a character right now that I'm having great fun with on Kids Saturday Morning TV as well. We're off at the moment, but which is again, it's that I love it because it's live and it is. You just get to go on crazy flights of fancy in your head. So obviously you can do the puppeteering, but equally you can talk crazy, which funnily enough, Laura does a lot. She does a lot of kind of riffing comedy puppeteering, where you have a whole nother layer. A script is great fun because it's been written by somebody and it's wonderful, and the words are beautifully put together, and it's an honor to go, great, this work is done, I just need to read it and everyone will give me the credit. But it's also great fun to riff. So I think my favorite characters have been stuff where I don't have a script. That sounds odd. Sounds like megalomania. Like, I like it when I make everything up and I'm the king of everything. But there's a lot of fun to be had with that. Equally, I love some of the characters, the movie characters and Dark Crystal characters and stuff I've done, because I kind of go, well, that's great. That's going all over the world. You do things, and you're very conscious of the fact that, when we were doing BB-8 for Star Wars, we went for 2 years. It's a secret. Like, no one knows. We're the only people who know for like a year what this thing looks like, how it is. And, there's us. And so there's myself and Brian and Matt and Josh, who are the BB-8 team. And there's J.J. Abrams, who obviously was the director and the creator. It was JJ's idea to create that puppet. Kathleen Kennedy, who runs Lucasfilm. Neil Scanlon, who's the boss of the creature department. And then there's a few others. And then that's our secret. We can't tell anyone. Nobody must know. So that's kind of fun. Equally, that's quite scary, because you go, what if we put this puppet character out into the world and the world goes, what is this? Like, this is just a ball. It's annoying. You just don't know. So there's a funny kind of jeopardy with the big characters where you think, this is super exciting. We're doing Star Wars, it's amazing. And then you go, please let them like it. Please let them like it. Because if they don't like it, Star Wars fans will tell you. They'll say, that's terrible. We saw the new character. It's terrible. Why did you do? Whereas luckily with BB-8, they loved it. So, that was cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a funny story. And Laura approved about improv.
Yes. I knew she would. She would. You should check Laura Bacon out. You guys should check her out. She's probably a member of I think she's a member of the podcast group, and she has some good and interesting and fun stuff.
We will be in touch. Hey, Laura.
Yeah, we'll do lunch. I'll work with her another time, because in England we do have puppeteers, but we don't have. We have basically we all know each other. Is what I'm trying to say. Is there's a community. We all know each other, and when big projects come into town, we basically see the fact. It's a big, crazy, dysfunctional family, and we see the same people again and again and again.
But it's cool. It's a family, as you say. And we have other question. Yeah, people like, here. I will bring David. And he asked both of us. So it's really interesting. It's the first time someone asked like you and me and the...
Both of us. That's all right. You could go first, Caroline. Take the heat off me for a minute.
Favorite moment of your career? Wow, that's an interesting question. Eh? So you can take a sip, Dave. I could answer fast about... I could say that I really get a blast when I was doing a solo performance on ice with Cirque du Soleil in Montreal. Actually, I think I enjoyed the fact that you could play in your own city, and you do a big, like you are alone, and you do this in front of a big crowd, and you bring your puppetry art to the next level because you bring it on ice. For me, it was kind of a moment, a challenge moment, but also I think it's one of the great moments of the career. So now your turn, Dave, to
What was the
answer
question? Was the greatest? What was
here.
favorite moments?
Your favorite
Oh,
moment.
it's so difficult because there's so many things where you go, that was amazing and that was fun.
Yeah.
I think probably. I was going to say getting trained at Henson's, but that's not my career, is it? That's starting out. We kind of covered that earlier. I don't really know. That's awful. I should say I should know. I mean, Dark Crystal winning the Emmy was pretty good because we worked so hard on that show, and I was worried that we wouldn't. And I thought, who else can win the Emmy this year? We've done this, and we worked forever, and we slaved over it. So that was quite a buzz. Favorite moment? Oh, I know, good one. Good Star Wars one. I don't know whether the guy who asked the question is a Star Wars geek or the girl. I don't know.
Yeah,
Who asked
we
the
don't
question.
know. David.
Just from Geekology, walking up the Millennium Falcon ramp was quite exciting because as a kid I was crazy about Star Wars. So walking up the Millennium Falcon ramp and going, oh, this is where I work for the next 6 weeks, that's quite exciting. And that's pretty exciting. And then also, Kevin Smith is an American film director. You probably know Kevin Smith. He walked up the ramp, he burst into tears. Norman Reynolds, the original production designer of Star Wars, he walked up the ramp, he burst into tears. People really affects people, that stuff, because it's it goes back to your childhood and stuff. So I suppose that was pretty cool. There's been quite a few though. So I mean, it sounds like I'm going, oh, I've got so many favorite moments, but there are things that happen and you do go, this is pretty cool now. Like, you want to pinch yourself and say, I am lucky. If it wasn't for Jim Henson Company and Star Wars, I may well be, packing chickens or something.
Lucky, that's great. And yeah, we have Simon who enjoy also Dark Crystal.
Thank you, Simon.
And we have Oliver right there. Yeah, I think he approved. That's great. Yeah, here also Caroline, Dave. Hello.
Oh, I must have. What would you most like about puppeteering? So he says, what did I most like about puppeteering, Skexo, and controlling BB-8?
That's a good question, Simon.
That is a good question. Thank you very much. The fun thing about Skexo, who is the emperor in Dark Crystal, I don't know a picture of him around, but he is big. He's like 7'5" and very heavy, very sweaty, very everything, very confusing. You can't see where you're going. You have no line of sight. You have a monitor inside that shows you what the film camera sees. Your arm is up in the air because the head is up there. You're remembering dialogue. You're not bumping into furniture. You're not bumping into your fellow performers. You're not falling off of the edge of the stage. There's 1,001 things to think about. And it was very, very hot. Like we all got so hot and sweaty, like t-shirts soaking wet through. However, that said, the best thing about performing Skexo is he's the villain. So he's the most miserable of the evil guys. There's all the evil guys. The Skeksis are all evil in their own special way. Yeah. And they have very distinct characters. It's that thing we talked about earlier where each individual performer brings a very interesting villain to the table. But because Skexo's the boss of the villains, it was great. Just him just going, you're rubbish and he's rubbish and I hate you all and kill Gelfling and murder him. And everything was just so brilliantly, operatically, Shakespeareanly horrible. So it was great because there's so much to go on playing the bad guy. So that's kind of why I love playing the bad guy. That was so much fun. And BB-8, I suppose, BB-8 is also very difficult, but in a different way. I don't mean to make it sound like it's all so hard. It's not so hard, but BB-8 is tiny controller. He's a remote control plane controller. So it's this tiny little, this is literally what I'm doing. I have these tiny little controllers here, and 1 millimeter on my controller represents, like 3.5 centimeters over on the puppet. So so you have to be super precise. So I get a kick out of getting things right. I mean, we don't always get things right, obviously, but there's a few shots in Star Wars where I'm like, this is so crisp and so tidy. Like it couldn't be any better. I'm so proud of it. But it's not just me. There's so many other people involved in that. As I said earlier, there's another puppeteer, Brian, and there's Josh Lee, who built BB-8, and Matt Denton, who created the software for BB-8, and Neil Scanlon, who's the boss of the creatures. And then there's Henrik, who painted BB-8, and then there's Serena, who molded stuff, and Kenny, who molded stuff. There's loads of people to come together. So I get to sit there and go, look at how cool he is. The truth is, there's a bundles of people behind us who are giving us that privilege. But there's some shots in. So there's some shots in BB-8. I mean, I won't go into the shots specifically, but there's some really cool shots of BB-8 where he's super flying, super snappy, and I'm like, that is great. There's also other stuff that I don't think is great, but that's another project. But yeah, sometimes you see stuff and go, why did they pick that take? I know we had a better, but they're looking at everything in that shot. They're not looking specifically at you. It's like, what was the sun doing? How were the background artists? What was the principal? There's so many reasons why takes get chosen. But yes. That was a very long-winded answer. Sorry, Caroline.
But it's such, like, I love details like this. It's such, like, precise. It's kind of, we feel the work. We are digging into it. It's really cool.
Yeah. And I think there's a weird thing with, like, specifically with stuff like that, where it's real immersion stuff, like the Skeksis. It's interesting, going back to the puppeteer inside. There's Neil Sterenberg, who plays Rian in The Dark Crystal. He also plays the Scroll Keeper, who's the one with all the glasses down his nose. And so he's this brilliant puppeteer, Neil, and he has this ability to be this very sensitive young gelfling, Rian, who's on this amazing mission, and he has to get into this whole thing that one day he's a normal kid, the next day it's all going crazy for him. And then equally, and that's a lovely subtle performance. And then he also plays the Scrollkeeper, who's really horrible and nasty. And Neil's voice is also the voice of the Scrollkeeper. He's one of the voices that remained on the soundtrack. So he's an amazing performance. But the Scrollkeeper is such a different Skeksis to Skekso the Emperor. It's so different to the Gourmand, who is played by Louise Gold, who Louise is, original Muppet Show member, cast member. She's been doing it for years. She's a brilliant, fun, amazing performer. And she does the Gourmand, who's more obsessed with food than anything else. And that's a whole nother different Skeksis. And the same with everyone. I could name all of them. Every single puppeteer brings a different movement vocabulary and a different style to a Skeksis, which a lot of people would say, well, you can't do a lot with a Skeksis. It's got a flappy mouth and it's got two hands. But if you watch the show, they're all very, very distinctive. And that's, that's a lovely thing to watch happen as each puppeteer discovers their character, and they start moving and they start speaking, and watching those performances grow and gel together as a team, because you're never in doubt of the fact that Skeksis are really tight. Like, they're really good friends. They're revolting, but they're really good friends, and they hang out, but they're also different. And that's pure puppetry.
Yeah, it's a lot of passion right there. And Simon is happy. It's an honor, he said, that we answer his question.
Thank you, Simon. No problem. No problem at all.
So let's take a last one. I like it's cool to dig into it, and it's someone who, like, it's David again, who asked about Jim Henson Company. Do you have
the best memory of again, that's a tricky one. I suppose something that strikes you when you first go and work for Jim Henson Company, I was 20, is when you see the puppet characters that you grew up with. So it's quite odd there's no secret to you guys, but there are a lot, there are several Miss Piggies, there are several Kermits. There have to be, because sometimes, Kermit's climbing a thing, other times he's being thrown to the air, other times he has a special rig for, different things that he does. And so I suppose when you first go to Jim Henson Company and you see on a film set the racks, puppeteering racks, which is where we store all the puppets when we're working, and you just see like a wall of Kermits, like you see 5 or 6 Kermits and you see 5 or 6 Piggies or 5 or 6 Fozzies, and you can't believe that this is, like, you go, that's really Fozzie, so that's a very strong memory for me. But as a kind of an overview of working for them, and obviously I worked for them very, very recently on Dark Crystal. Equally, I've worked with them along the years many times. And this sounds like I'm just blowing sunshine. They are a lovely company. They are a great company to work for. And the reason is because, you're working for the people who wrote the rule book for film and television puppeteering. I know they didn't write the rule book for everything else, but Jane Henson and Jim Henson, Jane was Jim Henson's wife, were both huge fans of all forms of puppetry. And Jane was, ran a training program, and Jim Henson was always interested in, what was going on, the new stuff and the old stuff and the heritage stuff. So because puppeteering is woven into that company, and now with Lisa and Brian looking after the company, who are obviously Jim and Jane's children, again, and Cheryl, I should say, Heather, they fully understand from the beginning to the end how these things are put together, and they know all of the heritage. So working for them is a dream, because sometimes you work for commercial people, or you work for companies who are just using puppeteering for 20 minutes for a thing, or they're using them for a commercial very quickly, and you really have to go in great detail about how it works, and you have to educate them along the path. But these guys, you don't need to educate. They've done it all, so it's fine. You just have this best memory of working with them is, first thing, the Muppets, and secondly, just working with them. They're an amazing company. They really are, and they've held on over the years. It's I think it's great that they're still, Jim Henson started in the 1950s, and you have Dark Crystal, which came out 18 months ago or whatever, and Earth to Ned, which is their Disney Plus show, and they're still kicking it. Like this, they're still the best in the world at what they do. So it's lovely to go and work for them, because you think, well, this is going to be much more straightforward than normal.
That's true, and it's such a respect for the art form, for the puppeteer work, and that's true. We can see it in the screen. We feel it. It's great.
Yeah. And I think that lovely, I did mention it briefly, but that lovely thing of, like, Jim Henson would go to Mayfair. There's this thing in London called Mayfair where all the Punch and Judy guys get their puppet booths, and they put them in Covent Garden, and they do punch shows all day. And like, Jim Henson would turn up to that. So he'd go and support the Punch and Judy guys, who essentially, they've got their show in the back of the car, and they have the booth, and they turn up to parties and events, and they do all sorts of huge events, down to small kids parties. But the fact that he was still there, kind of going, what are these guys up to? And they're checking it out. And also, he was big on European puppetry, as was Jane Henson. And if anyone had anything new, they wanted to know about it. And there's just there's that passion there, which you just can't. It was years and years of knowledge in both their heads. And it's the same with, like, Brian Henson, who he directed Earth to Ned, the Disney Plus show. He's just fascinated by new stuff. Like, if you can think of a new way to do something, he's the one who devised the bicycle sequence in the Great Muppet Caper, where they're all cycling bicycles around London in the park. And that was his. He's like 18, 19 at that point. He's on summer break from school, and he just came over and went, I can figure this out. I mean, it's like, you've got like 20 puppets riding bicycles, and he went, I think I know how we can do this. So, and he still does that now. He's always looking for the new, like, how can we make this better? What's the new thing? How can we,
That's true. It's a field who improve, and like it's great to see that. And for the conclusion, Dave, I always ask if the guests have a puppet somehow around to show to the camera.
I sort of do. I mean, the thing is, I can show you this is really old. So this is not me performing. Hang on. This is the first Muppet puppet I got in the US. I got this in Canada when I was a kid. I'm not going to do him because he's all fallen to bits, but it's obviously Bert from Sesame Street, one of Frank Oz's characters. And I'm not going to do him because he's got eyes, and I'm working on a straight scan monitor. This is a reverse monitor. Let's see if we can see, where's the, where they are.
Yeah, I can bigger.
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 I'm a potato. I'm a potato with a ripped mouth. I'm sorry. I can't see anything because I don't have any eyes, and my mouth does not move very well because I'm very old. Okay, so do I get paid now? Can I get some cheese? I don't understand any of this. Who's this guy? So that's him. I could get you. Do you want me to get you one with eyes? He won't look at the camera, but do you want me to do that? Or is that enough?
Yeah. Let's go.
Okay, wait.
We are here to see puppetry in action. And thank you, by the way, all the people who put question in, and if you stay tuned, we have another camera coming.
This is a puppet of me. This is made by a brilliant British puppeteer called Phil Fletcher. There you go. There's me. So if I just disappear, hang on a second. Okay. So he's gone now, and it's just me. I don't know why I'm American all of a sudden, but I am. That just happened. I don't know why.
That's perfect. And
thank you.
And you are a passionate character. I feel you.
Yes, of course. Yes, I am very passionate. This is my house. I live here, and I'm sometimes in a human form, but right now I'm in a puppet form, and I just have a little. Look, I don't know why is the roof sloping? I said to Caroline before we started, it's like I'm in Harry Potter. I live under the stairs in England. I don't live under the stairs. I'm in a loft. But anyway, that was a puppet of me that Phil Fletcher, who's a brilliant British puppeteer, made for me when we were doing the Dark Crystal. So that's what I look like in a felt fabric form.
Yeah. Michael was curious about. Yeah.
It's me, Michael. It's me. It was a gift. It's me in a puppet form. I do have other puppets in the house, but they're not. I mean, I don't have tons. I have some puppets in the house, but most of the stuff I do is owned by the companies that you work for. So you can't walk out. You can't walk out with it. You know?
Yeah, that's true. They have copyrights also.
Yeah, and if you wanted a BB-8, loads of people say to me, "Do you have a BB-8?" Or like when we did Yoda on one of the Star Wars films, and they're like, "Do you get to keep a Yoda?" Like, no. Do you have any idea how much these things cost? Like, a Yoda's very expensive. A BB-8 is insanely expensive because it's full of software and bespoke software and stuff. There's a bit of kit in. Very geeky Star Wars fact. There's a bit of software in BB-8 which only exists in BB-8. It's bespoke and it was made specifically for that. And that's quite an interesting fact, that there is this this piece of kit that isn't used anywhere else in the world. It was specifically designed to make him do his special clever head moving thing while the ball's rolling, and everyone goes, how do they do that? Magic. Movie magic.
It's magic. This is puppetry. Thank you so much, Dave, for your time. So if people want to see more of your work, want to contact you, where they should look or go?
Well, Caroline knows this. Caroline knows this, viewers, but I'm not on social media. Not for any reason. I think social media is great fun. I just don't have the time. But I'm not really anywhere. I mean, there's loads of stuff on YouTube. Like if you type Dave Chapman talks BB-8 or Dave Chapman talks puppets or whatever, there is stuff of me. There's more than enough of me talking nonsense online. So yeah, I don't have Twitter and stuff. And I will probably get it at some point. Like, I know that lots of my friends, especially puppet community, like, why don't you? I will. I'll catch up at some point. I just don't have time. I've been busy raising children, and that just hoovers your time up.
Yeah. But that's good. That's another kind of not puppet. We cannot say that.
No, in many ways they are. Puppets are easier because you can put puppets back in the box and say, "Go to sleep now, little puppet." But children less so. But funnily enough, they liked puppets when they were kids, but now they're like, oh, not more puppets, But they did when they were little. They really liked the fact that they could talk to. There'd be a TV character that they knew, and then you could talk to them, bring them home, and show them the puppet, and they like that a lot. And they're in some of the stuff as well. I used to drag when they were little. They're both teenagers now, but I used to drag them into the show sometimes. They'd play interested children.
That's great. That's amazing. Dave, that's all for our interview. But I will remove you off the screen, but you can stay in the virtual studio. We can chat after. So I will just push
you got it, Caroline.
like this, like woohoo! Thank you, everyone, for watching this wonderful interview. And if you haven't catch this up, I have a new camera right there. We improve the podcast with new stuff, so it's really cool to share that experience with you also. And if you have any question, feel free to write to us. We have an email address, info@puppetpodcast.com. And yeah, we have this on the weekend. Let me bring in the screen right here. The wonderful workshop that we organized about online OBS, how to manage this. So we will learn some techie stuff. I don't know if you're used to that OBS, but I will do my own work also. I will study a bit of what is that OBS thing. So I will be ready for the workshop on Sunday. It's this Sunday. So feel free to have a look on the Patreon. I will just bring the little banner. So the address is right there. So yeah, and let's share this interview. That was amazing to get into Dark Crystal world and Jim Henson. So feel free to put it out on your wall or the friend wall or whatever. Put it, share it, and you know how it works. So ladies and gentlemen, I wish you a wonderful evening if you are in UK, a wonderful afternoon if you are in Canada, US area, and however you are in the world. See you next week for another episode of the Puppet Podcast.